Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling Arcane.
Ooh, Arcane.
But we're going deeper than just the story.
Yeah.
We're talking about the art style, the animation, all those hidden details that make it so visually stunning.
It's a really gorgeous show.
It is.
Yeah.
And you sent in this amazing video essay by Gema Vadillo
Oh, yeah.
that really breaks down the art of Arcane. And honestly, it's made me see the show in a whole new light.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Like, I always knew animation was an art form.
Oh, yeah.
But this video really gets into the nitty-gritty of how much thought goes into every single frame.
It's not just pretty pictures. It's storytelling.
Yeah.
Like they're using those visuals, the colors, the way things are composed, the character design
Right.
to tell a story without even using words.
And they do it so well.
And it's so effective.
One of the first things that Gema points out is this blend of steampunk and cyberpunk.
Yes,
Which
a really cool combination.
I love that combination.
Yeah, it's like Victorian London meets Blade Runner. You've got these really interesting contrasts right from the start.
Yeah, and those contrasting styles aren't just like a random aesthetic choice.
No.
They're actually used to represent the two main locations in the show, Piltover and Zaun.
Which are like night and day.
They are.
In terms of like social standing, wealth, technology.
Yeah.
It's all reflected in that art style.
So Piltover, you've got this city of progress with all this shiny tech. It's very sleek, very cyberpunk.
Lots of metal.
Yeah, polished surfaces, clean lines.
Yeah.
A whole lot of glowing lights.
It's almost sterile looking.
It is.
Very futuristic.
It's very clean. And then you've got Zaun, the Undercity.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is all about that steampunk vibe.
Yeah, much more gritty, much more industrial.
Yeah, you can almost feel the grime and the pollution just looking at it.
It's got that kind of oppressive atmosphere.
Yeah, and even the color palettes are completely different.
Oh, totally.
Like Piltover is all blues and greens.
Those cool tones, yeah.
Yeah, very sterile.
Like a laboratory.
And then Zaun has those warm, earthy reds and oranges.
Yes.
Like not in a cozy way.
No.
Almost menacing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's not just the architecture and technology, but the colors themselves are telling you that these are two very different worlds.
Absolutely.
Even before the characters start talking.
It's setting the stage.
Yeah, and that contrast between Piltover and Zaun, it's not just in the background.
No, it's everywhere.
It's reflected in the characters, too.
Their clothes, their hairstyles, even the way they stand.
Right.
It all plays into that visual difference.
Okay, so we've got this world built on contrasts.
Right.
But here's something I found really interesting. A lot of modern animation tries to go for that super smooth, hyper-realistic look.
Yeah.
But Arcane is different.
It is.
The lines are harder. You can actually see the brush strokes.
Yeah, it's got a very distinct style.
It does.
And that's completely intentional.
It's not an accident.
No, they really thought about it.
So what were they going for? What kind of look were they trying to achieve?
Well, it's almost like those old school paint-on-glass animation styles, but in 3D.
I see.
They wanted each frame to feel like a piece of concept art.
Which is really cool when you think about it.
It is.
Because it gives it this really unique look and feel.
Yeah, it's very stylized.
Okay, so what kind of art inspired this style? Because I'm getting some serious art history vibes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Gema mentions Art Nouveau in the video.
Which makes sense if you think about all that Victorian-inspired architecture in Piltover.
Right, all those flowing lines and organic shapes.
Yeah, and the attention to detail.
But she also mentions some darker influences like Goya.
Koya.
Yeah, like the guy who painted Saturn devouring his son.
Oh, wow. That's,
Intense, right?
that is.
But I can see it,
Yeah.
especially in some of those fight scenes and riots.
It adds this darkness, this intensity
It does.
that you don't always see in animation.
It's like they weren't afraid to draw inspiration from some pretty unexpected places. Yeah.
And it's all part of what makes Arcane so visually rich.
So we've talked about the contrasting styles, the art historical references, but we can't forget about color.
Color is huge in this show.
It is.
Absolutely.
And Gema really breaks down how color is used in Arcane.
Oh, yeah. It goes way beyond just making things look pretty.
It's like color is its own language in this show.
It is a language.
Okay, so remind me, what are complementary colors again? I know it's like color theory 101, but
Yeah, no problem.
I need a refresher.
They're colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel,
Right.
like blue and orange or red and green.
Yeah, okay.
And when you put those colors together, you get this really interesting visual tension
And Arcane uses those complementary colors a lot
all the time.
to highlight conflict relationships, even foreshadowing.
Exactly.
So it's not just random.
Yeah,
Okay,
so-
give me an example.
Okay, so take V's in powder.
Those are the sisters, right?
Yeah.
The main characters.
They're constantly associated with blue and pink.
And at first glance, you might just think, okay, that's just their color scheme. It shows their personalities.
But it's so much deeper than that.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Think about how blue and pink not only visually connect them as sisters, but also foreshadow their eventual separation.
Oh, wow.
You know, V's blue represents her strength, her determination, but also a kind of coldness.
And Powder's pink is all about innocence, vulnerability.
But also that potential for chaos.
Which we definitely see later on.
Yes, as she becomes Jinx.
It's like their destinies are written in those colors.
It's subtle, but it's brilliant.
Okay. My mind is officially blown.
And there are other examples throughout the show.
Like?
Pay attention to the colors when Jace and Victor are on screen.
Okay.
Or look at how those cool blues of Piltover clash with the warmer reds of Zaun.
It's not just a visual choice.
It's deliberate.
It's adding another layer of meaning.
Yeah, they're using color to tell a story.
I'm going to have to rewatch the whole show now just to pay attention to all the colors.
It's amazing what you'll notice.
Yeah.
It's like seeing the show with new eyes.
I love that.
And that's one of the coolest things about studying art. You know?
You always discover something new.
Especially animation.
Yeah.
There's always something hidden beneath the surface.
So we've talked about world building with those contrasting styles and how color is like its own language in Arcane.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another layer to the visual storytelling that we have to talk about.
Yeah.
How Arcane actually uses animation to create characters.
Right.
Characters who aren't just cookie-cutter heroes and villains.
Oh, yeah. Arcane throws out those simplistic good versus evil tropes completely.
And it's not always obvious at first glance.
Right.
Like you see a character with a sharp jawline, maybe piercing eyes.
Yeah.
You think, okay, bad guy.
Totally.
But then their actions just totally flip that on its head.
Exactly. And Arcane plays with those classic visual cues.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got these characters that look really tough, but are actually super compassionate.
Right.
Or characters who seem really sweet.
Uh-huh.
And then they do something totally ruthless.
And it's like those initial design choices are just hints, not the whole story.
Right. You have to pay attention to how they move, how they interact with each other.
Yeah.
Even those little facial expressions.
It's all part of understanding who they really are.
It really adds to the complexity.
So let's talk about some examples.
Okay.
Jinx, for example.
Oh, Jinx.
As she kind of descends into madness,
Yeah.
her design gets more and more sharp, more chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Her clothes are more ragged. Even her movements get more unpredictable.
Yeah, it's like her inner turmoil is reflected in how she looks.
And then you've got Silco, who is technically a villain,
Right.
but he has this surprising depth.
He does.
He's got that sleek, sophisticated look.
Yeah, but he can be utterly ruthless.
It's true.
And I think that's what makes his design so fascinating, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't fit the typical villain mold.
Right.
You know, he's not hulking, he's not monstrous.
Yeah.
He actually almost has this paternal quality.
Yeah, especially with Jinx.
Yeah, exactly. Which makes his villainous actions even more unsettling because he doesn't look like he'd do those things.
Right, like they're really challenging our expectations.
Yeah, they're saying, hey, villains don't have to look a certain way.
And then there's Vander.
Oh, very.
Huge, muscular, gruff exterior,
Right.
but also this incredible love for his adopted kids.
Mm-hmm.
And a strong sense of justice.
Yeah, he's such a great example of how Arcane blurs those lines between hero and villain.
Because he's willing to do some pretty questionable things.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all to protect the people he cares about.
And his design really reflects that inner conflict.
That push and pull.
Trying to do what's right
Uh-huh.
versus what's necessary.
It's that moral complexity
Mm-hmm.
that makes Arcane's characters so interesting.
They feel real. They feel human. They
Yeah.
have flaws. They have contradictions.
And they make you think.
They make you question your own judgment.
Like the show is saying, hey, there's more to these people than meets the eye.
Exactly. You can't judge them based on just their looks
Right.
or their role in the story.
You have to look deeper.
You got to dig a little bit.
And that's where animation really excels as a storytelling medium.
Yeah.
Because you can create characters that are visually interesting, full of symbolism,
Uh-huh.
but also allow for those subtle nuances
Mm-hmm.
in expression and movement.
It's a powerful tool.
Speaking of movement, let's talk about the fight scenes in Arcane.
Ooh, the fight scenes.
They're not just these flashy action sequences.
Right.
They're so well choreographed.
Yeah.
They really tell you about the character.
Their emotions, their motivations.
Yeah, like Vi's fighting style.
Mm-hmm.
It's raw, it's aggressive, reflects her anger, her need to protect,
Uh-huh.
but it's also really skillful.
precise.
It shows that she's not just some brawler.
No, she's trained.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
And then you've got Jinx, who's much more chaotic, unpredictable.
Her fighting style is like an extension of her madness.
Yeah, it's scary, but it's also kind of heartbreaking.
And even in those quieter moments, when there's no fighting, the animation is still doing so much work.
The subtleties are amazing.
Like the shift in a character's gaze,
Yeah.
a little tremor in their hand.
It can tell you so much about what they're feeling.
It's like we're getting access to their inner lives.
Yeah.
Their thoughts, their emotions.
Even though they're animated characters.
Right. It's amazing.
And that emotional depth is really heightened by the soundtrack, too.
Yeah.
Especially that Imagine Dragons song, Enemy.
Oh, I love that song.
It perfectly captures the themes of the show.
That duality, that internal conflict.
The struggle between who we are and who we become.
It's so fitting.
It's like another layer of storytelling.
And speaking of layers, one thing I really appreciated about Gema's video essay was how she pointed out all that symbolism.
Oh, yeah. Arcane is full of visual metaphors.
Like those playing cards.
It's playing cards.
Or the clock imagery.
The clocks.
They're not just random details.
No, they're deliberate choices.
They make you think about the deeper meaning.
Exactly.
So the playing cards, for example,
yeah.
they could represent fate. Like we're all just playing this game.
With consequences.
And they're used to foreshadow events.
Or hint at a character's destiny.
It's so clever.
Really well done.
And then the clocks. Mostly in Piltover.
Right.
It's like this constant reminder.
Time is passive.
Progress is marching forward.
Yeah.
And that pressure.
To achieve.
To succeed.
And to control.
Yeah, like Piltover is obsessed with controlling time.
With innovation, with advancement.
But then in Zaun, you don't see as many clocks.
No.
It's like time moves differently there.
More chaotic.
Yeah.
Unpredictable.
And that difference in how time is represented just adds to the divide between those two worlds.
Piltover, all about order and control. Zaun, it's about survival and adaptation.
And then there are those masks.
The masks.
That Silco and his followers wear.
Yeah, they're really striking visually.
They look cool, but they also feel like they represent something more.
They do.
On one level, they're hiding their identities.
Their intentions.
But they also speak to this idea of conformity.
Losing your individuality.
Right, like they're all hiding behind these masks.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, they're conforming to Silco's vision and giving up their individuality for the cause.
And the fact that the masks cover their mouths,
right,
like where their voice comes from,
yeah,
it suggests a loss of expression.
Like they're not individuals anymore.
They're just extensions of Silco.
It's wild how much thought went into every detail.
And there are probably so many other symbols and metaphors
sure,
that we're missing.
This is just scratching the surface.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Arcane.
You watch it again and you notice more and more.
Like peeling back layers of an onion.
Which is funny because even onions play a symbolic role.
Oh, they do.
In the show.
We could talk about onions for hours.
Maybe we'll save that for another deep dive.
Yeah, another time.
But seriously, after this conversation, I'm realizing animation is so much more than just cartoons.
It's an art form capable of telling really complex stories.
It can explore these nuanced themes, these layered characters.
In ways that live action just can't.
It's like you can really see the trauma that these characters go through reflected in the animation.
Arcane doesn't shy away from the dark stuff.
Not at all.
And the animation is so important for showing us how those experiences shape the character.
Especially Powder.
Oh, absolutely.
Where she becomes Jinx.
It's not just a name change.
No, it's a whole transformation.
Her entire look changes.
More fragmented, more distorted.
Like her mental state is becoming visible.
And those flashbacks.
Oh, yeah.
The way they animate her memories. It's like we're experiencing the trauma right along with her.
You really feel it.
And the animation style changes too.
Oh, yeah.
In those flashback scenes.
You get these like distorted images, jarring transitions.
Yeah, and that sound design.
It's unsettling.
It throws you off balance.
Which is totally intentional.
It's like they want you to feel that same disorientation that Powder's going through.
Exactly.
It's so effective.
That's brilliant filmmaking.
And even though Vi doesn't have this like drastic visual transformation, you can still see the trauma in the way she moves her expressions.
Like a hesitation in her step?
Yeah.
Or the way she reacts to loud noises?
It's like she's carrying that weight.
She's trying to be strong, but you can see it just below the surface.
And it makes those moments when she does break down.
When that tough exterior cracks.
So powerful.
It's really heartbreaking.
The animators didn't let her off easy.
They showed the impact.
Even if it's subtle.
It's amazing how much they can convey.
With just those tiny details.
Those little movements. Those subtle expressions.
It makes these characters feel so real.
So human.
Even though they're animated.
That's the magic of animation.
It really is.
When it's done well.
So to sum it all up,
yeah,
Gema's video essay really opened my eyes.
To how much thought goes into animation.
With every single choice.
From the color palette.
The character designs.
The editing.
It all contributes to the story.
It's all intentional.
Arcane is like a masterclass.
In visual storytelling.
Showing us what animation can really achieve.
When it's done with passion and vision.
And I think that's why it's resonated with so many people.
It's not just a show.
It's an experience.
It stays with you.
You finish watching.
And you're still thinking about it.
It makes you rethink what animation can be.
Exactly.
This whole deep dive has been amazing.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's made me appreciate animation on a whole new level.
It's great to hear.
I'm already planning my Arcane rewatch.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure I'll catch even more details this time around.
You always do.
That's the beauty of it.
There's always something new to discover.
And who knows?
Maybe this will inspire someone out there.
To create their own masterpiece.
To tell their own story.
That's the goal.
To spark that curiosity.
To get people thinking about the art and the stories.
All around us.
Until next time, keep diving deep.